Okay, hi everybody. So welcome back to the Bookish Traveler, my channel. And so basically, this is a video that deals with a lot of issues and especially on what happened to me recently. And I'm proud to say that I have finally gained membership in the Romance Writers of America, and it is an honor to belong to a group that is so progressive and is able to mutate itself to suit the current time. Okay, so I also want to bring another additional news that I was recently elected as a judge for the VIVIAN Awards, a VIVIAN contest for 2020-2021, and it's an honor to become a judge for the works of all those budding romance writers out there. And so I've gained membership in RWA because of my work for the past 6 months. I've published 3 books so far. The 4th and the 5th are coming out soon, hopefully in December and January. And in this video, I particularly want to talk about cultural competence. It's part of our training as a VIVIAN judge, and I was very impressed by the efficiency and the coordination of judges training during this whole process. And on a particular note, I also like to congratulate Laquette, who is our current president-elect, and congrats Laquette for hopefully you can lead us into the bright future. And and also recently I attended a seminar by 2 very prominent researchers. One of them is Devona Pierre and the other one is Sabrina Griffith, and this seminar or lecture was on cultural competence as part of our training as a VIVIAN judge, and it basically talks about a lot of things, but 2 topics that really strike me was that really strike a chord in my heart is about implicit bias and also microaggressions. And let's start by a definition. I mean, from this segment forward, all of the stuff that I'll be talking about will be credited to Sabrina and Devona, right? Who brought this material in the first place in their seminar, which is not open to public. And from their definition, cultural competence is basically the ability or to appreciate and to be sensitive to the history, current needs, strengths, and resources of communities and individuals who historically have been underserved and underrepresented in America, and also within our own association. And so when one has developed cultural competence, we are able to coordinate, work, or interact with people from different cultures and social backgrounds. Now, we talk about the 2 different types of biases, right? There is a explicit bias and implicit bias, right? And I particularly like how Sabrina highlighted the existence of implicit bias. So implicit bias is basically attitudes and beliefs that you hold at a conscious level, so you are able to self-report it. But implicit bias is unconscious, and however, it still influences our behavior. And also, usually it's attitudes or stereotypes that affect our understanding, action, and decision towards the other person, right? And implicit biases are pervasive, right? Everyone has them, and both implicit and explicit biases are different mental constructs, according to Sabrina. And however, they're related to each other; they're not mutually exclusive. So implicit associations, one would call it, do not necessarily align with our declared beliefs. And implicit bias also tend to favor our own in-group, right? The group that we identify with, that we belong to. And there are very few cases, but still there are cases where we hold implicit biases against our own in-group. right? So an implicit biases are malleable, as is the human mind, and it can change over time and mold into something else, shift into something else. And also they're tools though for reducing implicit bias. So if you don't keep your implicit bias in check, what happens is microaggressions, right? So microaggressions can take the form of micro insult. It's often unconscious, verbal, nonverbal, and communication, implicit communication that subtly convey rudeness and insensitivity. I kind of like the examples that they give. So Sabrina was talking about how people were always coming up to her and asking her whether her hair is real, right? Because she has this afro hair, and right. And so that is one example, right? That, and also things that I've encountered in my personal life as well, which I would reiterate here. So where are you from, right? And then if people reinforce that question again after you give them an answer, where you're really from, okay, so that actually signifies that the other person holds a certain assumption about you once that person actually sees you. And that really speaks to the issue at hand. Yes. And what about something like your name is too hard to pronounce, can I call you Mary instead, and you made up some name to for that person, and then why do you sound so white and you don't act like a normal black person? That's another one. Or something like, you're not like other Muslim people. That's also, you're not like other people that that belongs in your group, right? You speak English so well. That's actually the biggest one. Is like, okay, so underlying those statements, right? Like you're so articulate. What you're really saying is basically, when you meet the person in the first place, you don't expect them to be articulate. You don't expect them to speak good English, and why would that be? You barely know the person, right? And that's something to consider when you are speaking to a person from a different or even a person who is in your own in-group, right? So what do you say instead, so as not to offend people, or this sort of show that you actually hold a grievous, like a grave and serious implicit biases? You say nothing, right? You can opt to say nothing, or you can comment on people's specific ideas or insights. So it's not about them. So it's not about, so don't sort of pass evaluative remarks or judgments. So avoid qualifiers in your statements, right? It's not about the person, it's about what he says or she says. And this is all bearing in mind that a person's identity is shaped by a lot of things. It's shaped, I mean, we talk about in that seminar about the big 8 that make up diversity in a person's identity, like, for example, age, race, gender, religion, culture, sexual orientation, and socioeconomic status. But that is also not all, right? So because each individual, each one of us actually carries a lot of mental baggage in our head, and basically our perception is shaped by the particular experiences that we have had in life, right? So I may belong to this ethnic group, but that doesn't mean that I have shared experiences with people in my group. And sometimes you may even find you have shared experiences with people that are outside of your cultural groups, and that's I mean, and maybe you identify more with them, and that's just the way it is, and that is okay as well, right? So beware of all these implicit biases that you have, and also make sure that you don't fall into the right. And also part of microaggressions, basically micro assault, which is particular actions, micro invalidation, which means that communication that suddenly negate or nullify a person's thoughts or feelings or experiences, right? So deny that person's thoughts, feelings, or experiences, and that's big, because even in therapy, if you're talking about psychologists and psychiatrists, validation is a huge is a big thing. Basically, is one of the most fundamental things that you have, a tool that you have to help another person. And so I was very impressed by the way romance writers of America decided to conduct their training for the judges, and I'm looking forward for the next couple of weeks where we have more training. I'll give you an update on that as well. So in this video, I'd like to recommend a book, since we are dealing with the issue of cultural competence. It's basically an old book that I read before I attended medical school, and it still resonated to this day, and I recommend for all medicos to read it. It's a book on medical anthropology. It's titled The Spirit Catches You and You Fall Down by Fadiman. It basically tells it's basically a non-fiction book. It tells the story of the Hmong community in Merced, California, and how their cultural belief systems come into conflict with Western medicine when it comes to the treatment of a young child by the name of Leah Lee. And it's a very moving book. I read it before I was a medical student, but it still haunts me even as a medical student, and it goes to show about how important it is to be culturally sensitive when you're dealing with patients from different backgrounds. And it's just not, I mean, when I read the book, I didn't understand I didn't feel the full impact of what Fadiman wrote until I actually went into the wards doing my rotation, and I felt it was a good book. She's done her research. She's a medical anthropologist, and it was like she was caught in this crossfire between, the Hmong family on the one hand and the medical community on the other. So basically, the Leah Lee suffered from an epilepsy condition called Lennox-Gastaut Syndrome, and in the Hmong community, having a child who suffers from epilepsy is actually seen sometimes as a favorable thing, because they believe it ties into their belief system about spirits and right. So that's why, therefore the title of the book, The Spirit Catches You and You Fall Down. And they actually revered people. They think that the child, when they're having an epileptic fit, was actually speaking in tongues and was actually possessed by a spirit, and it was actually a good thing. And this actually interferes with the treatment of the child, because obviously, according to Western medicine, when a child undergoes epilepsy or seizures, basically there's cell death in the brain, and that's right, and of course there's like misfiring and all those stuff, but too many epileptic episodes can be really detrimental to your health. And so so that's basically ends my video this time around, and I'm looking forward to doing another video. I'll give you other updates. There are a lot of exciting things coming up in my writing career, and I've actually worked with a lot of amazing people, voice actors, and also believe it or not, manga artists. It's been great. Okay, well, stay safe, and until next video. Bye.